Guess who's back. Tell a friend. Tori's back. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? No, no, no. What was I just doing there? I was using my respiratory system. And I'm going to be doing that the whole time, actually. We're doing this little lecture here. So, let's get into it, and we're going to watch a little video of exactly what I was doing there. Okay, so we're going to draw a really ugly human. I got a big nose. That boy a honker. I like my nose, but that boy got some substance to it. All right, we're gonna draw ourselves little humans here. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good. And this nostril kind of far back, but we'll go with it. Ooh, look at them sexy lips. And yep. Oh, it's a cute little chin. Whoa. Oh boy. It got real friggin' funny looking. Okay. Yep. All right. That's pretty good. That's a long neck. That's a giraffe. All right. We got some hair. This part's usually real fun in class, but I don't know. You guys can't actually contribute. We'll have some nice curly pink hair. And we'll make it a mullet. Yeah, it's a party in the back. All right. Oh man, I really wish I knew what his name was. And we won't do that because we want to keep it open. All right. This is all part of the respiratory system. Clearly. We're going to do this very simple. Well, we got ourselves. We'll go a little thicker here. We got our little nasal cavity up in here. And this goes around the back. Like so. Excuse me. We got like a little soft palate there. Hard palate's the bone, soft palate. We'll talk about the hard palate later. And then we got this little thing in here. Big old muscle. Come down something like that. And this boy finishes the job. Very kind of basic, simple view here. All right, this thing in here, up here, it's called the nasal cavity. And this does a couple of things. One, first up, right in here, we got some little dangly boys. And as you get older, these boys get longer. And sometimes they'll just be snaking straight out of your face. We got little nose hairs. And these are actually important. They actually serve a function. A couple of things. One, that combined with kind of convolutions within the nasal cavity. So it's kind of splits up and there's like parts of it that stick out. That combined with the hairs does a few things. It helps, the nasal cavity helps moisten the air, so the air is going to travel through here. And you know, it's going to have to take its time and kind of snake through here. And that's going to help to moisturize the air. So it's not coming in super dry into your lungs and drying out your lungs. So the nasal cavity helps moisten the air. Adds moisture to it. Moisten. Moisten the air. Moist. People don't like the word moist. Moist. It's very moist. It's damp. It's moist. All right, that helps moisten the air. The hair also, nose hairs help trap debris, particles, things like that. Little pieces of dirt that might have some bacteria and things on it. Helps keep it out of your lungs. We don't want that crap in our lungs. All right, then we've got back here, we got something called the pharynx, back of the throat. Pharynx. And it's actually broken up into a couple different types, but all I care is that you know is the pharynx. That's what this is called. This here obviously would be the tongue. Not really part of the respiratory system, but just so you know, and we'll talk about it with the digestive system. Okay, cool. Let's keep cruising, actually. All right, now we got a couple little parts here. We got two tubes. We're going to draw in the tubes first. We got one tube in the back. We got one tube in the back. And draw something like that. And this boy goes down something like that. And then we got a tube up front. And it's got actually a little flap up at the top of it. And then it's got a specialized little part here. Like that. No, I don't want to do it like that. I'll draw it like this. Something like that. And then all along it, we got these thick kind of ring-like structures like this. And I'm just going to copy this now and paste it down. And we're actually going to get to see this in lab. We're going to do a dissection, and we're going to get to see that. We're actually, I think, going to do our first dissection this week, which is pretty interesting. Okay. All right, so we've got our tubes here. Maybe not perfectly drawn here. Let me redraw this esophagus. Oops. So it doesn't look so crazy. Come on, you can do this esophagus. Boom. Get rid of you. Not my friend. Okay. Something like that. Okay. This is the esophagus, like I've said. Esophagus. And this is part of your digestive system. This is the tube that goes to your stomach. Esophagus goes to the stomach, goes to our stomach. It's not part of your respiratory system, but it's an important little component here. All right, this big long tube here is called our trachea. Trachea, or as some of us like to say incorrectly, but it's so fun, is trachea. It's fun to say, trachea. Another word for this is our windpipe. And there's a couple of cool little parts of this that I want to talk about. First, let's go back up to the top here. I drew these kind of looking, and this is a tube. I didn't draw the kind of rest of the flesh, but you get the idea. All right, this little part here is this is like a little flap. This little flap is the epiglottis. All right. And what it does is when you swallow, you wouldn't want food getting down into your windpipe. So what this little flap does is it actually closes up so that you can swallow. And I'm going to recopy this and bring it over just like this little part here. So I can draw that. Okay. So what that does is it actually, when we eat food, that little flap seals up like so. So when we got, I don't know, eat a freaking Sour Patch Kid. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. We don't even, well, maybe we chew it up a little bit, but sometimes we get real excited. We just swallow something and it can't get down into our windpipe. And instead it goes into our esophagus. So our windpipe is in front and then our esophagus is right behind it. All right, so we need this little epiglottis. It's a little flap. So this is boop, like that. It goes like that. Boop. Covers up the esophagus. Boop. Or covers up the trachea, sorry, to allow food to go down the esophagus. So this little flap is the epiglottis. It covers the trachea during swallowing. If you ever drink something, I know you've all done this, we've all done this. If you've ever drank something and you cough because it kind of went down the wrong pipe, that's what's happening. It's your epiglottis's fault. So you can be like, epiglottis, do your dang job, bro. Look, I just drank some coffee unscathed. My epiglottis worked. Okay, that's your epiglottis. Right below that, epi means on top or above. This kind of open space here is called your glottis. And then this little thing is your voice box. This is your voice box or your larynx. Larynx. Like lyric. Ooh, that's where you make sounds from. It's a combination of these two little flaps. You take a piece of grass and you go and like make it whistle. That's essentially what you're doing with these two little flaps, and you're changing the length of those flaps and also the shape of your throat up here, your pharynx, to produce those sounds. And that's what I was doing at the top. I was putting on my rap voice for y'all, playing with my kind of larynx, my pharynx, and also putting some sound up in my nasal cavity. Huh? That's up in the nasal cavity. Huh? Versus down in the mouth. Huh? Huh? You know, have some fun with that. You got a little echo chamber in your skull for making some goofy little sound dizzles to dazzle, you know, your mates, you know, your friends. Have some fun with that. All right, I'll shut up. Nobody cares. Why do I exist? Okay. All right, just kidding. I'm having fun. Okay, this stuff, why did I draw it like this? All right, you got a windpipe. It's like a straw. I don't have a straw, but I got a pen. I'm going to chip a tooth. Yeah, this isn't working. I don't have a pre-visual aid set up. I'm trying to do it improvised, and it's not working. Drop the pen in my shoe. All right, well, you want to keep that pipe open, right? Because this is what we breathe through. We need oxygen to carry. Not to carry. We need oxygen to produce ATP. Our mitochondria eats oxygen and sugar to make ATP. Our cells need this. Otherwise, we die. We get rigor mortis without it. So we want to keep this bad boy open. And these little blue rings are actually hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage. So you have little cartilage rings. Hyaline cartilage to keep trachea open so you can breathe. You would not want your trachea to collapse. That'd be very bad. All right? And there's a couple of cool points. I don't want to talk about this. Your trachea is freaking dope. Okay, first thing, let's do a cross section on this. So let's take this little section here. And we're going to do a transverse view of it. Like right now, we're kind of doing like a mid-sagittal view. I forgot a mirror. A mid-sagittal view, right? We've cut straight down and we're kind of looking at this human. Half of it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is a transverse view. We're going to cut right through this way and then look down at it. All right, so transverse view. It's called a cross section, transverse view, or cross section. And we're going to look at one of these hyaline cartilage. And if you remember, hyaline cartilage, a couple of lectures ago, boom, right here. Oh, matrix of fibers, cartilage. Oh, hyaline cartilage at the ends of your bones provides a cushion, also lines your trachea to keep it open. And this is our trachea kind of splayed out. And this is the exact way we're going to kind of look at it. We're going to look at these, one of these little rings here, hyaline cartilage. It's very dense collagen matrix. It's very thick. So we're going to look at one of these rings. All right, so this would be the posterior side, posterior. And this would be anterior, anterior. We got our hyaline cartilage. Something like that. Then we also have a little bit of smooth muscle in there, like so. It's pretty nifty. Now we've got a cough, a cough, a cough. What happens when you cough? Sounds like it can kind of hurt, right? Well, there's a reason for that. This muscle here is contracting when you cough. So now it's maybe something that's much shorter and fatter, something like that. And your trachea is now shrank up a little bit, right? Because it's been contracted in and pulled in. Maybe over-exaggerated a bit there. So this muscle contracts during coughing. Muscle contracts during coughing to decrease the volume. And what happens when we decrease the volume where a gas can be? We increase the pressure to expel things. You take a hose and you put your finger over the end of it, you've decreased the volume and the water now shoots right out. So we shoot out that air. We're trying to expel something from our respiratory system. We're trying to get it out. So we're going to increase the pressure. All right. This is how we expel, let's say, some bacteria or debris, particles. I feel a little goofy. I might be over-caffeinated. All right, so that's one way that we get rid of junk from our respiratory system and our lungs. There is another way. All right, and this one's really, really cool. One of my favorite things, and we've talked about this tissue a little bit. So now let's go this way. And let's talk about a very specific tissue. We're going to do a zoom in here. So this is really a zoom in at the tissue level. Zoom in at the tissue level. And we're going to look at the cells. And I'm going to draw them as slightly different blue. And what we're going to actually be drawing here is this, a pseudo stratified columnar, wait, actually it's pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Oh, that's a mouthful. That's why I like it. Pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Thank you very much. It's very cool. Very, very cool. It has such a cool function, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, so we got some cells here. And the reason why it's pseudostratified is it kind of looks like the cells are layered, but they're really not. Like sometimes the cells will only have like a real little bit up there, and most of them will be down there. That makes sense. And maybe this one's only got a real little bit down there. And most of it is up top. Like that. Okay, let's draw one more little guy in here. And we'll do a couple more actually. Just so you get that pseudo-stratified nature. Okay, I see I'm breaking you. You don't know what to do with that. See, this one looks like it's not up top, but it actually is. Okay, something like that. All right, and these guys are, of course, going to have nuclei. We'll draw those in this blue. Little circles. And the nuclei are all at different layers because the cells look like they're pseudostratified. Then we're also going to have other cells that kind of look like this. We talked about these, or some of you guys talked about these. I don't actually remember if I did or not. But they kind of look like little goblets. And they got these big mucus. They kind of look like little goblets, like that. And they got these big mucus granules in addition to their nuclei. So we got a nuclei, and then we got these I make the mucus granules in green. Okay. And these guys, all of these here, have cilia. So pseudostratified means they look like it's layered, but it's not. Looks like it's layered, but it's not. Ciliated means cilia. Talk about those. Columnar means they look column-shaped, and epithelium means they line something on top of tissue. So tissue on top. Okay, so ciliated, that means they're covered in cilia, which we didn't get to talk too much about, but cilia are full of microtubules, and cells can move them. And pretty much every single one of your cells has a single cilia. It's used for signaling. But a lot of your cells will have multiple little hair-like projections like this that they can move. And this is a very good example of that. Okay, so we got a goblet cell down here. Goblet cell makes mucus. And mucus is like a type of sugary substance that attracts liquid. That's what mucus is. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with phlegm and mucus and loogies and all that. So this boy secretes mucus. And you got this whole little mucus protection layer kind of on the outside. Like so. You got tons of goblet cells. Like so. And this helps mucus layer. Mucus layer helps trap debris and bacteria, right? We don't want that crap getting inside of our lungs, causing infections or inflammation. Okay, and then the cilia, these guys help. Oops. What the heck is the cilia doing? The cilia acts as a little mucociliary escalator. Mucociliary escalator. Escalator. Mucociliary. I think that's spelled right. This mucociliary. They just don't know what they're talking about. Mucociliary escalator. Mucus, cilia, escalator. That's what it is. And these cilia beat rhythmically like this, like to move this mucus up. So these cilia beat rhythmically to move the mucus up. So if we have a little, let's say bacteria, a couple bacteria like this, oh, they'll get trapped in this mucus. And then over time, this mucus will get moved up. And then this mucus will get moved up. So on and so forth, okay? Mucociliary escalator. Moves mucus up and out of the lungs. Pretty cool, man. All right. And where does it go? Where does it go when it gets to the top? Where does the mucus go? It gets up here, and then the mucus is pretty interesting. So we got our mucus coming up, up, and then it goes down here and we swallow it. Or it comes and gets accumulated up here and we go and we spit it out. If you swallow it, it goes down in your stomach and your immune cells can kind of sample it. And they can be like, oh, look at this bacteria, man. We can check this out. We can prep our immune system for this. Oh, we got a little virus. Maybe we shouldn't make an antibody to that. Get ready for that. Okay? So you're actually constantly, without your conscious thought, sampling the air because it's getting trapped in your mucus in your trachea and down in your respiratory system. And then you're swallowing that and kind of sampling it with your immune system. So you're constantly kind of sampling the air for bacteria and viruses and particles and removing it from your respiratory system where it could cause an infection. And you're putting it in your digestive system where it's going to break down, and then you can kind of sample it and build your immune system that way. Pretty smart little intelligent body that we've got here. Okay. And coughing adds to this, right? So when you're sick and you got a lot of extra mucus, you can do this part. Where you cough, you constrict the size of that, you force some air through it real strong, and you push that mucus up and out. And the next time you guys are sick, you are not going to not be able to think of the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. I recommend memorizing that and dazzling people with your knowledge at parties on it. Okay, now, look, man, trust me. I love tobacco. If it wasn't so bad for you, dude, I'd be smoking a pipe right now. Just fresh, not a fresh, but like a toasted tobacco leaf that I freshly crumbled through in a pipe and smoked that boy up. Dude, it's so bad for you and harsh on the lungs, but it just feels so good to do. But why don't I do this? So this would be a smoker's version. What happens when you smoke? Well, and vaping does this too. Vaping might not quite destroy these in the exact same way, but it's going to cause all this extra mucus, and I'll talk a little bit about vaping in a second, but let's just talk about being a smoker. You know, after a couple days of smoking, what happens is you've just obliterated these. You burn off those cilia. You don't have them. They're gone. And so now your mucus is just stuck there. It can't go anywhere. So the mucus accumulates. Mucociliary escalator sets down. Mucus Mucus now has to be coughed up. And so you're going to increase your coughing. You're also going to have thicker mucus because you don't have it constantly being removed. So it's going to stay in there longer. It's going to be a thicker layer. And you're going to have to cough it up because you burned off cilia. Cilia are burned off. Okay, burned off. Cilia are burned off when you're a smoker. Okay, vaping. Okay. Yeah, I've vaped too. My total of my life, I've been a nicotine user. I don't know, 6 years or something like that. Don't recommend it. And if you're doing it, let's just talk about vapes real quick. Vapes. What is the main ingredient? Edit. Ingredient. What is the main ingredient in vapes? That would be vegetable glycerol. Vegetable glycerol. What is that? It's pretty gross. Glycerol. Vegetable glycerol. Anybody remember anything about vegetable glycerol? Let's go all the way back. Glycerol. Ooh, organic chemistry. Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, triglycerides. 3 fatty acids and what? A glycerol molecule. Glycerol is a sugar. It's a 3-carbon sugar. All right. So what are you doing when you're hitting a vape? You are taking in a sugar or part of a triglyceride minus the fatty acids, and you're coating your trachea and your lungs with that sugar. It's really, 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 really sticky. Bad for you. You're just inhaling a sugar into your lungs. Sugars are supposed to be in your stomach, not in your lungs. So you're creating extra kind of stress on your respiratory system. And then it's getting down all the way down into your little lungs, into your little alveoli, which we're going to talk about next. But there's one last little part that I want to talk about, and we'll save the lungs for the next one. All right, so we're going to talk about a kind of disease associated with cystic, or with this part of the respiratory system. It's called cystic fibrosis. It's really terrible. If you know anybody who has it, you will certainly know about their suffering. Especially, you'll be fine for a while when you're young and supple, but then as you get older, it gets real bad. It has to do with this mucus layer, and it has to do with some of the things we've learned about, such as osmosis and diffusion. All right, so we got our columnar epithelium, and I'm just drawing in those columns now this time, so we can make this nice and easy. Okay, and we've got our nuclei, and we've got our mucus layer. And these would, of course, have cilia, but I'm not going to draw them just for clarity's sake. All right, so our cells, and yeah, I did get to talk about this all with you, sodium and potassium and all this stuff. We've got pumps on our cells that pump ions in and out. Okay? And this pump here is for sodium. And so it's going to pump sodium in. So sodium is part of sugar, or part of salt, Na+. Na plus going to go in Na+. We'll just draw, I'll draw a decent amount of them, Na+. Na+. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of those inside, not many outside. We'll maybe just draw one outside. So it's going to take any sodium and bring them in. Very little out here. Most of it's inside. Okay? Then this guy, what's going to happen is it's going to take, and this is actually kind of the opposite of how most of your cells are. What it's going to do is it's going to take chloride ion, and pump a bunch of it outside. So we got a bunch of chloride ion outside, like so. And what this allows is that water, since the salts are kind of evenly dispersed, sodium inside, chloride ion outside, water will move evenly in and out. And I don't want the arrow on there. I don't think that'll make it confusing. So water will move evenly in and out of the cell. Okay? This allows the mucus to stay well hydrated. Okay, so it's nice and fluid, well hydrated, making the mucus, this is normal mucus fluid. This is how it normally functions in us. Okay, somebody with cystic fibrosis, we'll draw them up here. So they're going to have this channel will still be there. And they're going to have these ions still following this same kind of pattern. So the sodiums are going to be pumped in. Like I said, this is actually a little different than most of your cells. Normally, sodiums are pumped out of your cell heavily. But in your respiratory system, they're pumped in. And what's going to happen, though, is the chloride channel is deleted genetically. So they don't have that gene. It's not present. So they don't have that channel. Chloride channel is deleted, and this would be in cystic fibrosis, and this would be a normal individual. Normal individual. Okay, so if we've deleted this chloride channel, what's going to happen is all the chlorine ions are just going to be trapped in the cell. So now which way is the water going to flow? Water follows salt, if you remember. So this means that all of the water is going to leave the mucus and go into the cell. Water is going to leave the mucus and enter the cell. All right. And this causes, it's pretty cool. I mean, not cool for the person, but it causes thick, hard to remove mucus, making it hard to breathe and causing lots of infections. So kind of the treatment for this is you wear a giant vest to hydrate your mucus and to kind of break it down, called a percussion vest, and so that you can then cough that shit up. So like by the time you're in your 30s, like when you're a kid, it doesn't affect you so much, but like if you're an athlete, by the time in your 30s, it's like now you're out of breath when you're just getting out of bed and doing like the smallest amount of activity because you can't breathe properly. And now you have all this fluid accumulating in your lungs and you're very susceptible to infections, and you usually die like in your 40s. Really, really kind of terrible disease and really, really sad. Cystic fibrosis. And it's a genetic thing that hopefully one day we could, kind of, through gene therapy, re-add this gene back to these individuals, either before they're born or add some cells to their trachea that would then have that chlorine ion pump to bring in those chlorine ions. Okay. Make sense? All right, we'll end there. That was kind of the long one, and we'll continue on down into the lungs and talk about alveoli and the gas exchange. And that'll be the last one for the week. See you in that one.